A pleasant evening, everyone. This is Jody Gallardo of BSED English 2, your reporter for tonight's class. My report is also about the globalization of economic relations. This is just a continuation of Mary Joy's report. And now, we will move on to our next topic, which is the Bretton Woods system and its dissolution. The Bretton Woods system and its dissolution. Delegates of 44 countries managed to agree on adopting an adjustable peg system, the gold exchange standard. So the 44 countries have confirmed on adopting a system that can be adjusted that will serve as their support, which talks about the gold exchange standard. So the United States committed itself to sell and to purchase gold without any restriction. So dollar is the only currency that time that you can convert to another money. So gold serves as the main or mode of any business transaction. John Maynard Keynes. John Maynard Keynes proposed ambitious reforms for the post-war era and recommended the creation of an international clearing union, a kind of a global bank along with the introduction of a new unit, the Bancor. So he is the one who proposed that reform that will be used for the post-war era and recommended the creation of International Clearing Union, the Bancor. The International Banks for Reconstruction and Development, or BRD, become responsible for post-war reconstruction where transition to peacetime economy happened. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, is responsible for the promotion of international financial cooperation and buttress international trade. So, by mid-90s, the dollar became expressively overvalued in major currencies. As a response, foreign countries started to deplete the U.S. gold reserves. The unregulated and free flow of capital, the huge current account deficits, and the soft pegging regimes made these economies highly vulnerable, resulting in a financial crisis that first hit Mexico in 1994 and reached East Asia in 1997 to 1998. And now, we will be proceeding to our next topic, which is the European monetary integration. The United States activated its post-war reconstruction program, the Marshall Plan, in 1948, which was administered by the Organization for European Economic Cooperation, the presider of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development on a regional level, resulting finally in the Europe Coal and Street Community in 1951. This was followed by the signing of Rome Treaty in 1957, which established the European Economic Community, or EEC. European Economic Community, or EEC, was the first major step towards an ever closer union. The original 6 founding members of European Economic Community, or EEC, consist of Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. This union aimed at the creation of a common market where goods, services, capital, and labor move freely without any restriction coming from the authority. Let us now proceed to our next topic, which is the international trade and trade policies. David Ricardo's comparative advantage. It states that every single nation must have a comparative advantage in something irrespective of its initial conditions. Alexander Hamilton and Friedrich List recognized quite early on that voluntary trade can have a very different distributional effects, and it can also hinder the long-term development prospects of the country producing the lower value-added products. Realist and neo-mercantilist school protection is, in fact, still a natural way of securing national objectives. They believe that it can assure the consistency of goals application in one nation. This natural way focuses on the possible contingencies in a particular situation or consequences, and an economic system developing during the decay of feudalism to unify and increase the power and especially the monetary wealth of a nation by a strict government regulation of the entire economy, usually through policies designed to secure the accumulation of bullion or the gold or silver. According to Amin, 1993, if the world economy is such that it benefits core countries at the expense of the periphery, the latter should adopt protectionism in its extreme form of the linking. Let us now proceed to unilateral trade order. The surge of international trade arrived only with Europe's Industrial Revolution and the consequent repeal of the British Corn Laws in 1846 in particular. The so-called Cobden-Chevalier Treaty of 1860 allowed the UK and France to specialize in commodity, which focuses on necessities or thing that is being used by humans in their daily lives and needs. It is based on their respective comparative advantages and to achieve further advances in industrialization. It also helped avoid the eruption of abrupt war between the countries, which pertains to an action or change that is not planned. The so-called Most Favored Nation or MFN principle stated that any negotiated reciprocal tariff reductions between two parties should be extended to all other trading without conditions. Europe witnessed the emergence of a sort of multilateral systems of bilateral agreements, giving birth to the first common market in second half of the 19th century. The Smoot-Hawley Act of 1930 increased tariffs to record high levels in the United States. By the effectiveness of Smoot-Hawley Act of 1930, all the charges in all commodities will increase with the intention to record high levels in the United States. This relation was the rational response from the trading partners, and international trade dropped by 1-to-1 2/3 as a sequence. The enactment of the U.S. Reciprocal Trade Agreements Act in 1934 eventually put a stop to any further decline in international trade. We are now proceeding to multilateralism from the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade or GATT to the World Trade Organization or WTO. In a place of a unique trade organizations, nations committed to a world of lowered tariffs decided to coordinate their actions the auspices of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade or GATT. The General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade exerted influence by a series of multilateral trade negotiations. After almost 50 years of rule-based trade negotiations, the Uruguay round gave birth to a real international trade institution, the World Trade Organization or WTO. The World Trade Organization was launched on January 1, 1995 and has become an official forum for trade negotiations. So, as opposed to the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, it is a formally constituted organization with legal personality. So, we are now moving on to our last subtopic, which is the developing countries and international trade. United Nations Conference on Trade and Development or UNCTAD aims to promote trade and cooperation between the developing countries and the developed nations. Uruguay round meant to be a grand bargain between developed and developing economies. The formers were expected to open the markets, especially to agricultural and textile products, whereas latter accepted the new regulation on intellectual property rights and services. While developing countries have opened up their service markets, their export of agricultural products is still blocked by advanced nations. The current trade regime, and especially its main propagator, the World Trade Organization, is heavily criticized for striking asymmetry.